Amir. Today I'm gonna talk about the fatty liver disease. What's actually the fatty liver disease is, and I will tell you everything about the fatty liver disease, about the risk factors, about the precautions, and about the symptoms. Okay, let's start our topic. This fatty liver disease is mainly divided into two types. One is alcoholic fatty liver disease, and second one is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Okay, if a person is taking a lot of alcohols, that disease which is caused by the alcohol, that's the alcoholic fatty liver disease. A disease which is not, we can say, caused by the alcohol, that's a non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. We will mainly focus on this disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. This non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is actually the spectrum of diseases. This is actually spectrum of diseases. Spectrum of diseases, which is going from least severe to most severe. This non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is going from least severe to most severe. Okay, we will see what are the stages which is least severe, what are the stages which is most severe. Okay, be concentrated. Here, least severe is, first we can say, stage of this fatty liver disease, and that is the cirrhosis. And second is steatohepatitis. Hepatitis. And third one is fibrosis. That we can say it's also called cirrhosis, or we can say finally this is cirrhosis. We will see these all stages, what's going in our liver. First of all, I will make a liver. This is our liver. We know what are the parenchymal cells of our liver. They are the hepatocytes. This is our liver. And there are special cells, we can say parenchymal cells of our liver, that's called hepatocytes. I will only make one hepatocyte. This is our hepatocyte. Okay. What's going actually in our hepatocyte? Hepatocyte is a parenchymal cell of our liver. Here you can see that when there is more accumulation of the fat in our liver, we can say there is a fatty liver disease. So how this takes place? First we will describe a normal liver, what the function and what are the, we can say, states of the normal liver, and then after we can say talk about the pathology of the liver. Okay, here you can see one is diet from which we get our fat, and second is adipose tissue. Both are responsible for the fatty liver. from diet, if we take the more fat, that will ultimately go in our liver, in our hepatocytes, in our parenchymal cells, and make over the fatty liver disease. From adipose tissue, it also secretes the free fatty acids in our blood, and that ultimately go in our hepatocytes and form this fatty liver. You can see. From our diet, we take free fatty acids. Free fatty acids. And from adipose tissue, we also take free fatty acids. And what happens with the free fatty acids? These free fatty acids going in our hepatocytes, in our parenchymal cells. Going in our parenchymal cells in the form of fatty acids. Fatty acids. And from fatty acids, it finally converts into triglycerides. Triglycerides. I am asking you the normal, this mechanism in our liver. You can see. From fatty acids, it converts into triglycerides by a special enzyme. Which is that enzyme? That's called the alpha-glycerol phosphate. That's called alpha-glycerol phosphate. Okay. This is the enzyme which converts fatty acid into triglycerides. Here you can see we can obtain these fatty acids also from the acetate. These fatty acids we can also derive from the acetate. Okay. And this is the normal. We're asking about the normal, this metabolism of the fat in our liver. And these fatty acids can be converted into cholesterol esters. Cholesterol esters. And it also converts into phospholipids. And also convert into ketone bodies. Ketone bodies. Okay. This is the normal metabolism. How this fat gets accumulated. You can see here. If in our diet, in our adipose tissue, there will be more secretion of the free fatty acids. Free fatty acids will ultimately or finally convert into triglycerides. Means there will be increase in triglycerides, one factor leading to fatty liver disease. And what is the second factor? If more acetate will be converted into fatty acids, and this fatty acid will convert into triglycerides. Again, increased number in triglycerides. Okay, how these triglycerides again be elevated? If fatty acid does not convert into the cholesterol esters, or it will not convert into phospholipids, it will not convert into ketone bodies. If it will not convert into these three, what will happen? It will ultimately convert into triglycerides. Again, number of triglycerides increase. Okay, and again, if we talk about how it will increase more, you can see here this enzyme alpha-glycerol phosphate. If there will be hyperactivation, or we can say this enzyme will be more, or there will be hyperactivity of this enzyme. This enzyme will quickly convert fatty acid into triglycerides. Means by these all things that we discussed, there will be increase in triglycerides. Increase in triglycerides. I'll make a mini diagram here. You can see here the mini diagram. This is our normal hepatocyte. Now more triglycerides accumulates in our this hepatocytes, in our this parenchymal cell of liver. First, what's normal? Again, we will discuss. In normal hepatocyte, nucleus is in center, and there are liposomes which contain fats. Is the normal. Now we describe this condition. Now there is elevation of triglycerides. What happened? You can see. You can see. Now more triglycerides is in our hepatocytes. Means if there is more triglycerides, that will convert into fat droplets like this. Fat droplets. The nucleus which is present and center, it will be pushed to the periphery. Nucleus will be pushed to the periphery. And this nucleus, what is the appearance of this nucleus? Its appearance is signet ring. Signet ring. Signet ring appearance. Okay, now this nucleus is pushed towards the periphery. This accumulation of more fat in our hepatocytes, this process is called, or we can say this condition is called cirrhosis. Cirrhosis. Now, what's cirrhosis is the accumulation of the fat in our, we can say it's the accumulation of more fat in our hepatocytes. That's called cirrhosis. And this cirrhosis, this cell is called cirrhotic cell, or we can say cirrhotic hepatocyte. Hepatocyte. Okay, what happened after this? When there is more accumulation of the fat in our hepatocytes, this abnormal fat acts as a reactive oxygen species. It acts like that. And what will happen if it will act as a reactive oxygen species? That is very dangerous. If it acts as a reactive oxygen species, it will damage this. There will be a peroxidation, lipid peroxidation. Means this cell membrane will be damaged. When the cell membrane will be damaged, what happens with the cell? The cell will ultimately go under the inflammation. Okay, I will make it here. Here. Because when there is damage to the cell, it will call other cells, other lymphocytes. Come here, there is some problem. Means there will be inflammation of the cell. I will make it here. There is inflammation of the cell. Here you can see nucleus is here, and there are big fat droplets, big fat granules, and cell gets under inflammation. So this type of cell which goes under inflammation, and there are big fat granules, big fat molecules, and this condition is called steatotic hepatitis. This is called steatohepatitis. Steatohepatitis. Hepatitis. What does it mean, tites? It's the inflammation of these hepatocytes. Okay, now there is inflammation. What happens with the inflammation? There are some cells that are called fibroblasts. They will try to replace this cell. When the cell gets under the inflammation, when more fibroblasts will come here, they will try to replace the cell. If there will be the damage of the cell, they will recover this surface of the cell. So there will be the collagen formation, there will be the more collagen, and this collagen will be here like this. You can see collagen fibers will begin to replace the cell. I will make other cell here so you don't confuse here. There will be the collagen formation here, collagen fibers. And if there is the collagen fibers, they will begin to replace these cells. And these cells, we can say these inflammatory cells or inflamed cells. And this cell becomes stiffened. It will become stiffened. Okay, when it becomes this stiffened, and this will become more stiffened, you can see here. Now the cell is become stiffened. What ultimately leads after when there is scar formation and the cell became, so I will write here scar formation. Scar formation means more collagen will be formed on the cell surface. They will try to recover, we can say they will try to replace the cell surface, and the cell becomes stiffened. This condition is called fibrosis. Fibrosis means there is fibrosis take place, and this fibrosis ultimately finally goes in the liver cirrhosis. Now there is a fibrosis. If this fibrosis going in our whole liver, then we don't call this a fibrosis, and that time we call it a liver cirrhosis. What's actually liver cirrhosis? Is the long-term liver damage. This liver cirrhosis, I will make it here. Now all cells, all hepatocytes of our liver are totally damaged, and there is fibrosis, there is the collagen formation on our cells, within our cells, and that ultimately leads to liver cirrhosis. And you can see here, this is the fibrosis. Much more collagen is deposited here. And this is the point here you should remember. At this stage, we can do the fibroscan. What's actually fibroscan? I will write it here. First I will rub it. At this stage, this fibrosis, we can say that's called a fibroscan. Fibroscan. What's this fibroscan? It's actually at this stage we can see how much fat is accumulated in our cell. That is steatosis. Steatosis. And we can also see by this fibroscan scarring of the tissue, how much damage is within our hepatocytes, and we can see how much fat is accumulated in these hepatocytes. By this fibroscan we can see scarring. Okay, these are the, we can say, test fibroscan by which we can see these accumulation and the scarring of the tissue. The frequent cause in fatty liver disease, that's the insulin resistance. You can see here, this for example liver, and this is our hepatocyte. This is our hepatocyte. The receptor present on hepatocyte, this is the receptor. present on hepatocyte. This receptor is non-functional. Non-functional. This receptor, this insulin receptor. If there is insulin resistance, what happened in our this hepatocytes? There is decrease in fatty acid oxidation. Decrease in fatty acid oxidation. And there is fatty acid synthesis. In case of when there is insulin resistance, means this receptor is non-functional for the insulin, this insulin. So if there is non-functional this insulin receptor, what happens? There will be more insulin in our bloodstream, and the glucose present in our bloodstream that can't be pushed in our hepatocytes. This is the cause. Means more glucose will be elevated in our bloodstream. So there may be, we can say, there may be diabetes mellitus. But which diabetes mellitus? That's a type 2 diabetes mellitus. There is type 2 diabetes mellitus. Okay, this was about the insulin resistance. Now we will see what are the risk factors in this fatty liver disease. Okay, I will wrap it this. Now we will discuss the risk factors. Risk factors. What are the risk factors? The first risk factors, as we had discussed it earlier, there will be more glucose in our blood due to the insulin resistance. So there will be the type 2 diabetes mellitus. Type 2 diabetes mellitus. And what are the other risk factors? One is hypertension. More flow of the blood within our arteries. That's the hypertension. And what are the other risk factors? That's the hyperlipidemia. More lipid will be accumulated in our cells, in our hepatocytes. Okay, it means that hyperlipidemia means that more cholesterol, fatty acids will be accumulated in our this bloodstream. And what are the other risk factors? That's the rapid change in weight. Rapid change in weight. So there will be some, we can say, the alteration, change in our weight. This is all about the risk factors. And so I've forgotten one thing, that obesity is also a main risk factor. Obesity is a main risk factor for fatty liver disease. Now we will discuss the symptoms, and after that we'll see what are the precautions. What are the symptoms? First symptom is, you can see, there is malaise. What's actually malaise? Malaise is actually feeling unwell. That's called malaise. If a person is feeling unwell, he should go to the doctor and check up. And there's other risk factor, that's fatigue. fatigue, and other risk factor, other this symptom, that is RUQ discomfort. That's the right upper quadrant discomfort. This is the symptoms of this fatty liver disease. This right upper quadrant discomfort, you can see here, this in the abdomen portion, there will be some discomforts if there is fatty liver disease. Okay, here may be the itchy skin. Itchy skin. Skin becomes more itchy, and without the person gets confused. He didn't see what's this thing, and he gets more confused. So there are other symptoms, may be confusion. This was about the symptoms. Now we will describe what are the precautions of the fatty liver disease. Precautions. Okay. What are the precautions of fatty liver disease? What are the precautions in fatty liver disease? One of the precautions is lose weight safely. We have to lose our weight. Lose weight safely. Okay, we should lower our triglyceride through diet. Lower your triglycerides. We should lower our triglyceride through diet. For example, this is diet. And what are the other precautions? We should increase physical activity. Physical activity. And these things, if we increase our physical activity, we get rid of the fatty liver disease. And if you are a doctor, for example, we should regular checkups from the doctor who are specializes in liver care. Doctor, specialist in liver care. In liver care. We should go there and ask our problems. And how much fat at least we should decrease? We should decrease our fat at least to 10%. 10% fat, or we can say 10% of our body weight should be decreased. We should decrease 10% of our body weight. And what are the other, we can say, precautions? That we should take vitamin D. Vitamin D. We should take vitamin E. How much vitamin E should we take? We should take, if there is, we can see hepatic inflammation, so we should take 800 units. 800 units. During hepatic inflammation. Inflammation. Okay. And we should drink coffee. How much coffee should we drink in day? There are 3 cups. 3 cups of coffee per day. These were about the precautions and the symptoms, risk factors of the fatty liver disease. Hope you understood well. Thanks.